Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to the 19th episode of Rowen Reports with Dr. Robert J. Rowen. Today, we welcome kidney disease expert Dr. Rowen Rose to the show. Let us know what you think in the comments of this video, and if you'd like to support this podcast, please visit our generous sponsors by following the links in the description below. Don't forget to use the promo codes for discounts on every order. You can also find Dr. Rose's book, Renology Peptides, by clicking the link below. Now, I would like to leave you with some words by Virgil. The greatest wealth is health. Before we jump in, we would like to give a special thank you to our sponsor at PROMOLIFE, bringing you closer to the benefits of ozone therapy. Proudly rooted in the USA, PROMOLIFE is at the forefront of assembling ozone therapy generators designed for both personal and professional use right here on American soil. Meticulously handcrafted and precision calibrated, each ozone generator speaks quality and reliability. PromoLife has simplified the ozone therapy process by offering a complete line of high-quality accessories that allow you to use ozone in ways you never thought possible. Don't miss out and explore their entire collection of cutting-edge offerings at www.promolife.com/ozone. Make sure you use the coupon code in the description of this podcast for an exclusive discount towards your journey to enhanced well-being. I am also excited that our friends at shopc60.com are helping to sponsor this video. If you haven't heard of C60 before, also known as Carbon 60, it is a powerful antioxidant that helps to optimize mitochondrial function, fight inflammation, and neutralize toxic free radicals. I'm a big fan of using C60 in conjunction with a keto or intermittent fasting lifestyle to support the immune system, help your body detox, and increase energy and mental clarity. If you are over the age of 40 and you'd like to kick fatigue and brain fog to the curb this year, visit shopc60.com and use the coupon code in the description for 10% off your first order and take control over your health today. This episode is also brought to you by Simply O3. We are proud to introduce our latest innovation, Glycine, a premium ozonized glycerin designed to support your wellness journey. Ozone therapy has been transforming health for over 100 years, backed by more than 2,500 medical studies. Known for boosting immune function, improving blood flow, and reducing fatigue, it is a powerhouse for your health routine. Ready to experience Glycine for yourself? Visit www.simplyo3.com/ozone. If it's backordered, just leave them with your email, and you'll be the first to know when the next batch is ready. Don't miss out and discover the benefits of Glycine to take the step towards better health today. And remember, your health is an investment, not an expense. With Simply O3 and the revolutionary product, Glycine, you're choosing quality, innovation, and care. Visit www.simplyo3.com/ozone to make Glycine a part of your wellness routine today. Last but certainly not least, this episode is brought to you by NORDIC Health Solutions. Founded in Annapolis, Maryland in 2009, NORDIC Health Solutions is a leading biological medicine company offering a diverse range of healing modalities. Their devices provide the body with energy and tools needed for healing, repair, and disease prevention through pulse electromagnetic frequencies, light, temperature, and gases. Nordic Health Solutions devices excel in both energy medicine and light medicine, aka photobiomodulation. Their red light bed offers an unmatched power and frequencies at half the price of the competitors, and their Hercules Smart Thermal Laser is exceptional for pain management. Their motto is to outpower and undercut the cost of the competition. Finally, ozone therapy, including home ozone generators and the renowned Zotzman Ozone Hyperbaric High Dose 2000 for clinical use, delivers impressive results. Physicians can attend quarterly ozone training workshops in Santa Rosa, California with Dr. Rowen and Dr. Sue. Learn more about Nordic Health Solutions and their mission at www.nordichealthsolution.com.
Well, welcome everyone. This is another Rowen Reports podcast, and I have a really special guest today. The topic is going to be kidney disease, which affects millions of people. And this is Dr. Rowen Rose, who herself suffered significant kidney issues, which she will explain, and has gone on to develop a concept called Renology, not nephrology, Renology, which is a totally different take on renewing and restoring kidneys. And I think this is a topic that a lot of people should be interested in because, like I said, there are millions of people walking around with marginal kidneys, and they might not even know it. Dr. Rose, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Please tell the viewer what got you into this, because it's a remarkable story.
Well, I've been a clinician for a long time. Started as an RN, did a family nurse practitioner program, went to medical school, did a family practice residency, which is when I met your darling wife, who was an amazing support in my life during internship and residency. Practiced for a number of decades in Ashland, Oregon, and had a bizarre series of stressful events. I think that has a factor in how I ended up getting sick. In fact, my medical practice was embezzled, and that was an ordeal that nobody should ever have to go through. And so, in time, I made some life changes, came with my now husband for a 5-month stay in Hawaii, and ended up getting norovirus. And we ended up buying our house here and went back to Oregon to pack. And I started spiking blood pressures that were crazy high, 210 over 110, for somebody whose baseline was basically a 90 over 50 blood pressure. Saw a physician who totally was bizarre. I mean, literally. First, I've been a meditation and yoga teacher for decades, lived in India many years ago, and worked with a doctor in a fishing village, in fact. And anyway, she's like, have you considered meditating? You know, it's like, honey, I got 210 blood pressure here. Yeah, I know how to meditate. And got in my face and was like, repeat after me. I am healthy. Come on, say it. Which I still have PTSD about. And I said a word that I won't say on this podcast. And either you order the CAT scan or I will. I thought I had an adrenal tumor, but in fact, it turned out to be a rare form of renal cell carcinoma. I had clarity right away. I want this out. I wanted the nephrectomy. And proceeded to do all kinds of natural and pathway driven things to make the journey through surgery safer. And basically, the mindset is no problem. Anybody can live with one kidney. And as a family physician, what I realized is I really was not that up to speed with kidney. And I also found out nobody else I knew and respected and honored was either. And so went ahead with the nephrectomy. 3 weeks later, came to Hawaii. And 3 months later, went back to Oregon for a follow-up. Found out I had a GFR of 30.
For the viewer, GFR is glomerular filtration rate. That is the amount of blood, the volume of blood that gets filtered through the kidney. Now, in a normal youth, 100 plus. In somebody my age, I should have a GFR of about 80, wouldn't you say?
Well, here's the little dharma about that. I did a podcast with a UCSF nephrologist who was the one that taught us all that alkalinizing matters, and Joe Pizzorno, the naturopath who works with toxins. And what he said is we can't say that because we don't test for toxins. And it may not be aging that's causing the decline, but the epigenetic hit of living long that harms the kidneys. And I love that because really Renology is about changing this paradigm in our head. Yes, kidney disease actually ages people more rapidly. And sure, after you've lived, maybe you have high blood pressure or diabetes or autoimmune disease or any number of pathways into kidney causes premature aging and decline of kidney, but not necessarily. I mean, there are people who are in our age bracket who have a GFR of 100.
Okay, So, for the viewer, you lost a kidney, and your GFR, your filtration rate with the remaining kidney, was about maybe a third of what it should have been.
I think of it as a quarter.
Okay.
Of 120 is like the optimum. And I was getting told by kidney
Right.
specialists, don't be surprised, aka expect to lose 5% a year.
I don't buy that. And I want to add one other thing that
I didn't
disappointed
either, by the way.
this disappointed me about medicine in my training. We have a doctor for one kidney, a doctor for the other kidney, a doctor for a stomach, a doctor for the rectum, a doctor for the brain, a doctor for this wrist. You know,
Exactly.
what about the entire organism?
Yeah,
And that's
exactly.
where I really took a liking to what you were getting into about we're not dealing with nephrology or a kidney, but the relationship of the kidney to the entire body and vice versa.
Absolutely.
So
I've been
please,
saying that it's like we need to defrag.
yes. Okay.
The fragmentation in medicine is harmful to kidney. I mean, I have a lot of examples. I mean, I was told we don't care about homocysteine anymore. It doesn't really hurt the kidney. I'm like, wait a minute. The kidney is a vascular cluster, and the cardiovascular people are quite concerned about homocysteine, which actually elevates even more dramatically with CKD. So it's like, oh my God, why are they saying this? And, so I know we'll get to this, but I can't help myself. This is an accomplishment of recent.
Get it out there.
I'm so excited. As of Friday, it's available. And what I did was look at a whole series of peptide bioregulators that were developed in Russia that address every organ system. And what I did was look at how does each of these affect somebody with CKD. So does CKD affect the brain? Yeah, there's a kidney brain axis. Does the kidney affect the gut? Yup. The spleen, the ovaries, the testicles. I mean, and so a lot of the substance of this book is really teaching us all how these things connect, because kidney by itself doesn't just filter. It's got downstream influences. A deficit of filtration actually is secondary to what the tubules do. And we were speaking before, tubules go down first, and we don't have a way to test that. So, the way CKD is kind of conceptualized is in 5 stages. Stage one is kind of like 90 and above. Mostly, even I just go, yeah, do primary prevention and take care of yourself. Stage two is really where a lot of the action is. A lot of things are already declining. But in conventional nephrology, in the conventional medical world, stage two is normal. The GFR of 60 and above is ignored. And I think there are reasons for that don't have as much validity as I would like them to have. So, my declaration is stage two is not normal. That's when we can start. Maybe there aren't dramatic symptoms, but there's stuff happening. There's endothelial changes. There's acidification. There's a dysbiosis that's unique to uremia. Um, Mitochondria start declining, and that's what run the tubules. And then the glomerulus with filtration is damaged even more so. And, so we have statistics that say like maybe 15% of the population has kidney disease, but that's excluding how many people are in stage two. And so for me, that's like the family practice flag that we, in early diagnosis, can help people really regenerate, because at that point there isn't that solid fibrosis. What they say is, no matter how you got into this, whether it's autoimmune, neoplastic, cardio, glucotoxic, there's some unified thinking. Inflammation and oxidative stress is a known thing at whatever stage. And so we can start encouraging people to, first of all, find the self-love to make changes. It's hard to make. I mean, I used to say, health food Hannah doesn't get cancer, but here I am. How did that happen? Stresses in life. I mean, my stress score was crazy. Um, the world's toxic. Who knows? I mean, there really is confounding cases where this shouldn't have happened, but it did. And so that's where to start looking. Um, you know, I mean, my mother had kidney disease, but it was neglected. She died of congestive heart failure because of her kidneys.
Robin, let's just say they take one kidney out and your kidneys prior to that were operating efficiently. We'll say 100. We'll round it off at a GFR of 100. What would you expect your GFR to be after they take out one kidney?
Good question. And I don't know that I can specifically answer that, but I did find a paper that basically says the second that kidney comes out, you have CKD.
I agree with that.
That's ignored. I mean, I wasn't told that. And, they say, oh, you can live with one kidney, no problem. Well, yeah, but how well and at what risk? Things are like cardiovascular risk is 30 to 100 times more in someone with CKD than in someone who has a normal kidney function. I mean, that's alarming. And yet I saw a cardiologist, another one with the humiliation, repeat after me, I don't have CKD. And I'm like, what is he talking about? Well, you don't have proteinuria, so you don't have CKD. I'm like, wow, this is a cardiologist. I sent him some papers and he apologized later, but I mean, we're really not up to speed with kidney.
Well, your GFR dropped to 30, which is, I would be alarmed if somebody came to us with a GFR of 30, and I would swoop on them immediately. Now, here's the thing. You've only got one kidney. One kidney was taken out anatomically, and it had to be taken out. So the viewer is going to be interested in knowing what your creatinine clearance is today, or your GFR is today.
68.
So with one kidney, you doubled your creatinine clearance, or your GFR, to 68. You more than doubled it. Congratulations. The viewer's going to be, and incidentally, we do see a general increase in kidney function with what we do. We're not as detailed as you. We detox, we get metals out, we clean up their diet, and we do ozone. And if somebody came in with a creatinine clearance of, say, 30, I'd expect them to get up to 45 or 50, maybe even more, typically. You did better than that. And I want the viewers to know how and why. How do you approach this?
Got it. There's some real basics. I call it the low-hanging fruit. Most of it doesn't cost anything. It costs in self-love and willingness. And so diet is huge. That's the big conversation with kidney. I disagree with a lot of what the renal dietitians advise people. It's terrible food that I wouldn't tell any of my patients to eat. But organic matters. I have a chapter in the book about how glyphosate harms kidneys. And the amount of protein really matters because there's difficulty in filtering the nitrogen that comes with protein. And then there's an acid-base issue that's very real. Eating animal food, eating animal protein can be harder on someone with less kidney function. And so the shift into learning and knowing what plant proteins to eat, and there's so many factors, there's potassium and phosphorus and oxalates, among other things, magnesium. But the beginning is start assessing your diet. Chronometer.com is a free app. It's amazing. If you start measuring what you're eating, who knows how much protein they're really eating? Oh, eat good protein. You don't know how many grams. And the acceptable way of doing this is 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. That's a ballpark that anybody can work with. That's as much as anybody needs. Nowadays, we're encouraging people to eat way more protein, which is okay for some people, but anybody with compromised kidney function might want to change that. More vegetables, less junk. I mean, eliminate all junk food. Cook at home. That's essential. And my kitchen is my glorious workshop. So that was one thing. I mean, even though I was health food Hannah, I had to made some very specific changes. My potassium was elevated before I knew that you're supposed to take bicarb to fix that. Nobody bothered to tell me that. I figured it out by reading the literature. It was a struggle to figure out what vegetables could I even eat. My potassium elevated meant I had symptoms that were unpleasant, neurologic symptoms especially. Sleep is huge and compromised in kidney. So is melatonin. Melatonin isn't a bad idea for people with kidney disease, not for sleep as much for the immune support, but also for sleep. And then exercise is not optional. It has to be part of your daily life and makes a huge difference. By the way, with diet, eliminate sugar. Sugar has to go, and soda has to go. Um, Stress, unless you make it yourself, and we make lacto fermented bubbly drinks that are wonderful. But um, hydration, optimized hydration. A lot of people walk around dehydrated and don't
Yeah.
know it. These are all obvious, easy things that actually take some intent and effort. Stress is huge. The other thing that's enormous is toxins. And I came up with renal detoxicology, which I've gotten ridiculed and laughed at by groups of physicians. But, honestly, our world is toxic. Our food is toxic. The water's toxic. The soil's toxic. There's fumes in your garage and under your kitchen sink and blah, 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 your cosmetics. And so it really takes some honest self assessment. Like, how much do I love life? When you look at kidney from like a Chinese medicine perspective, I mean, it's generativity. It's like the core of our ability to survive. I think of kidney as a root cause, as in a functional medicine root cause, because it's so influential on everything else. And so, right there, anybody can do this. And then there's some things to know. To use bicarbonate is worth it. Knowing what your magnesium level is and making that optimal. Nitric oxide support, really enormous because the vascular status in kidney is so bad. Um, Fiber is huge. I like Acacia Senegal, which is available as a powder. I put it in my tea. I put it in my cooking. It swabs up uremic toxins and creatinine in the gut so that you can use your gut as a way to excrete stuff when the kidneys need help. And so that sweating is another way, doing without doing too hot of a sauna, which actually can harm. So there's plenty. That's all before you even start looking at the effect of supplements and a variety of repurposed medications. And there's so many things to be doing. So those people that you're working with all of the low-hanging fruit in ozone, there's some other things that you can add, including the amazing array of bioregulators and peptides.
Admittedly, we're not the strongest there. We're strong in ozone. So we this is one of the first opportunities I have to address peptides to my audiences. And I'd like you to expand on that and how you discovered this, how you use it, and what you use.
So initially, I was aware that my nitric oxide was in the toilet, under the toilet. It was so low, it was alarming. And I had evolved some vascular issues and blood pressure issues that I hadn't had before. Nitric oxide plays a huge role. I overheard Beth Shirley, who is a PhD nutritionist pharmacist, telling somebody else about BPC 157 to enhance nitric oxide. And I had one of these moments, these head turn moments like, what? I need to know this. Beth's become a friend, and so she made information available to me, and I got interested, spent about a month researching. There's a fair amount of positive studies out there and support. And I also think clinicians' expertise is evidence. And so I spoke to physicians who were quite vigorously using some of these. And I started using BPC. The interesting thing for me, my surgery left me with a kinked sigmoid. Imagine a hose that flows and you kink it, no more flow. I was really struggling. The day after the first sub-Q injection of BPC 157, which stands for Body Protection Complex, I got up in the morning and did what you do in the bathroom and didn't spend 2 hours. It was a miracle. And so that got me going. I started looking at the thymus peptides, at the growth hormone peptides. So to understand, for people who don't know, proteins are long, complicated, wound up things. Peptides are short pieces of proteins that are their active sites. There are brilliant people who are good at stuff like this, I'm not, who've been able to isolate those small pieces and use them therapeutically. And when you say, gee, I don't know about peptides, have you heard of insulin? That's a peptide. And what do you do with that? You inject it sub-Q because they don't tolerate the stomach breaking down the structure of these unless they're really tiny. BPC happens to be one that's made in the stomach, so you can take BPC orally. Many of these current peptides are injectable. And there's some issues going on. The FDA is trying to stop that. Maybe with the current administration that will shift. But I was taught by a kidney dietitian about pilotax. Pilotax is a
Spell it, please.
Pielotax. Turns out that was the kidney peptide bioregulator. Well, what are bioregulator peptides? That was a whole nother deep dive, which ended up as this book. There was a Russian researcher from back in the 70s. He was in the military in the Soviet, and he was a gerontology PhD who was ordered to discover substances to protect their military from the US military from radioactive and chemical warfare. And he did. He and some other people were funded generously. And these substances got tons of research over the decades. And, when the Soviet went away, he had an institute that continued to look. They've seen like 2 million patients. So there's a lot of data that shows the safety of these things. They mimic what the body does. So pilotax is actually like a kidney glandular that's been refined and refined and refined and hones to kidney. And I mean, the research is gorgeous. It's, they've done some studies like looking at gout in kidney patients. This stuff reverses it. There's been other studies looking at how patients' creatinine comes down. Somebody on dialysis gets reversed. These are amazing. So I started looking, well, what about the vascular one? And what about the brain and the pineal and the thymus? And there's many categories of them. And so each one having a relationship to kidney, I was really excited and was part of a study done by another PhD nutritionist who went to Russia and worked with Professor Havinson, the man who discovered all of this. And in the study, you cycle all of these throughout a year. And he's looking at longevity. And when you look at kidney as a progeric illness, as a premature aging trigger, the idea of longevity medicine actually is a therapeutic concept. And, I think of anti-aging as taking care of illness, because it's illness that ages you, and toxins. And so we actually can reverse some of that. So here's the cool thing about the bioregulators. They're tiny, 2 to 4 amino acids that the body recognizes as self. So there's not a reaction to it. They're so small, they get through the cellular membrane without a receptor. There's transporters, get into the nucleus, because they're so small they can just get in. And then each different category uniquely lodges in DNA, working with histones, and reverses epigenetic damage. I mean, that's amazing when you think about it. And so once you accomplish this, there's senolytic benefits, there's detox benefits, reversal of inflammation and oxidative changes. I mean, each one does it a little differently. And they were able to identify exactly what genes each one of these peptide bioregulators affects. And so what that means is their epigenetic damage blocks production of life uh, of proteins that life requires. And so by removing these barriers, proteins that weren't being produced or inadequately produced are happening again. And so body function can reclaim itself. It's really quite stunning.
How would somebody know what peptide to use? Can they determine that on their own? And if they can, how do they get it? Where do you recommend? And if they can't determine it on their own, who can?
You know, optimally, having an educated clinician is really a spectacular inclusion in what you're doing, because kidney disease isn't simple. I mean, there are simple things you can do. I mean, I think anybody can take pilotaxin. It's not going to hurt them if they have CKD. But it's way more complicated than that. So, the whole biohacker world is out there because there aren't enough physicians and clinicians who are knowing this. But there's a lot learning. In fact, I have a Facebook group for doctors learning about peptides right now. And there are a lot of resources. A4M is teaching about peptides. SSRP is another group. I mean, there's ways to be learning. It's not as much, I mean, there's a bit of a fad going on with the bioregulators. And because they're so safe, sure, you can slap them in and hopefully see improvements. Preferably finding a clinician who knows this would make it the easiest. Where I'm finding the most reliable bioregulator peptides is through Profound Health. You can find that online. For clinicians, IAS, which is International Anti-Aging Systems, is the arm for professionals. There's a wonderful professional discount that you can get. And I currently have just newly birthed a website called Renology is kidneysuccess.com, and there's a way for clinicians to hook up with IAS through my website, which I've just worked. There's a link, and also a link for Profound Health. They have nice, clean products. They make it easy. There are other resources. There are some resources that we don't know the purity of. And when you realize that, there are animal infections that we all know about that are kind of scary things, the whole mad cow thing. But when the bioregulators are produced right, this is dealt with. And so you do have to be somewhat careful and not get products that you don't know how they're purifying.
So, do you actively see people with kidney disease in any capacity?
I'm mostly working with physicians and other clinicians who are seeing kidney patients to teach. Sometimes I do guide people who are extremely motivated, but it seems like my role at this point has to do with offering education to try to get more clinicians out there to be aware of this and to help their patients.
You wrote, I have a copy of your book that I was reviewing before this podcast, and it's outstanding information. It's, if you're addressing the kidney, but this is addressing everything in the body.
Yeah, and that's why I said the whole body regeneration through the lens of kidney, because I felt like I really want more out there about kidney, but honestly, the materia medica in this book is the longest part of it. And the first section looks at how else to think about kidney other than the conventional approach, which has merit. Learn that, but then don't stop. The heavy metals, the glyphosate, the inflammation, the endothelial, the dysbiosis. I mean, there's a lot. It's a lot. And it's exciting and it's fun. It's fun to get better. Honestly, I mean, my life was not as much fun when I felt like I had the flu 2 or 3 days a week when I was really sick. It's amazing. And so the second section really looks at how they evolved the bioregulators, because it's important to understand. The third section is this big chunk of materia medica looking at all of them, what they do, what research we have, how to dose them. And it's true. It could be, truth for anybody. And there's a skill to knowing how to cluster these, bundle them, as they call it, and sequence them over time. And in time, the goal is that you don't need to keep using them. You're fixed. As long as you're not adding more damage, it's like if I'm eating toxic food, I'm probably going to need more therapy longer.
Well, what you just said to me is really valuable. You're saying that this approach fixes CKD, chronic kidney disease, and people, once fixed, they don't need to stay on something for life like pharma does.
Hopefully. I mean, that's, where we age and there's life happens, which was what I was humbly aware of when I had one intense hit after the other when I first got sick. But, I mean, I take amlodipine because through the course of figuring this out, my blood pressure became elevated. I'm hopeful that maybe I won't need it at a point. Sometimes I actually forget it and my blood pressure's fine. So, that's the optimism. Renology is the art and clinical science of kidney success. So there's a chapter, what is kidney success? How do we know that we're being successful? And really became obvious to me that it was tongue in cheek in a way, because everybody's like, oh, kidney failure. And my integrative oncologist basically yelled at me as like, do not use that term. And from a limbic system perspective, getting rid of the term failure is really an enormous gift. Working with the limbic system means you're calling to you that which is positive, releasing past traumas emotionally, life stories. The antecedent aspect is huge. And so if we keep doing the work, you keep meditating, you keep exercising, get excited about something else to cook. It's like the joy of life is a healing property.
One of the things I've taught for decades, the three fundamental causes of disease: improper nutrition, toxins, and stress.
Mm-hmm.
And toxins clearly are going to impact kidney function. We know that heavy metals do,
Mm-hmm.
and that we have to take out the heavy metals if you get chronic kidney disease. Um, you mentioned glyphosate and other environmental toxins. I guess you would probably say those, you probably want to go and sweat them out. Yes?
As long as what I was told was no higher than 104 degrees.
You want to get your core temperature up to 104, or you want the sauna at 104?
Less, you don't want your core temp higher than 104, that you can cause damage to kidney.
Okay.
And that was helpful to me. I got an amethyst crystal mat. I turn it up, and it makes me hot. We got a sauna bag that you can also control that. I mean, if I had room somewhere to make a real sauna, I probably would. I think it's useful. Infrared as well.
And recently you got turned on to ozone, or at least ozonated glycerin, when we went and visited you.
Exactly. And, I just started with a very little bit. I've been using a quarter teaspoon a day in my tea. And what I notice is a clarity in executive function. It's been interesting. It's like after you guys left that room in the back where your suitcases were, I cleaned from stem to stern, threw out stuff. I mean, sometimes life can be overwhelming. There's too much to do. And that sense of overwhelm improved. I also am noticing improvement in Paul. My first blog on my website is about ozone and CKD, which I put together the day after you guys left. And there's so many. I mean, there's so many tools. And the OG, we actually ordered some because we were trying to make it and it wasn't happening. It's like, let's just get some, and then we'll get around. We'll make it happen. But so it's available, and I've actually suggested it to several people already. Um, there's so many wonderful tools. F- from a botanical medicine perspective, we talk about plant-based diet. I'm talking about plant-based medicine. There are some incredible herbs. In fact, I think I showed you. I walked around my property and wrote a list of all the medicinal plants that are just growing here, and started doing the research specifically for kidney, because some things aren't safe. Cat's claw, don't do it. Not safe with kidney. I mean, there are certain things. Star fruit, too much oxalates. So, there's stuff to know. And that's why I wanted to put this together, which is a lot more than just bioregulators. It's how to think about how to protect kidneys from a world that isn't even aware of it. I mean, even some of the holistic teachers will talk about, well, brain health and liver health and spleen and pancreas, and you didn't mention kidney. It's been too invisible. And so here we are, putting light on kidneys so that people can thrive.
I want to mention one other thing, and that is your teeth.
Yes.
See, in Western medicine, which you and I were trained in, hang on. When I started this by saying there's a doctor for one kidney, there's a doctor for the eye, there's a doctor for the tongue, there's a doctor for the ovary, there's a doctor for the prostate, and they operate in different worlds, not looking at the interconnectedness of everything. You can't have an eye without a kidney, or
I have a good story. Can I tell you the story about
go
that?
ahead.
So this ophthalmologist comes to our island. My husband went to see the ophthalmologist as a patient. I tagged along and I said, so doc, I was really checking him out for myself. What's the connection between the kidney and the eye? Nothing. I'm like, all right, adios. Then this optometrist moved here and started practicing. So I went to see her and I said, so, Doc, what's the connection between the eye and the kidney? And she said, oh, they're both vascular organs. The influence on one influences the other. Sold. Then I actually did have eye issues and had cataract surgery. Asked that ophthalmologist what did he think, and he was like, "Well, do you have all day?" So I said, "Never mind, you passed." You know, and I recently, just the other day, did a webinar that a functional doc friend of mine put on with a dentist, and she's really doing that teaching about the oral health cardiovascular connection, and there's testing to be done. And I think that that's something I want to add to my paradigm of kidney health is get the oral microbiome tested because it's an enormous thing. And in fact, I flew to another island to see a biological dentist and spent an arm and 1.5 legs getting my mouth redone. Got rid of root canals. I mean, he used ozone as part of his therapy. Just totally redid my entire mouth. Unfortunately, had grandkids in Idaho and moved, but I think we did a complete job. And periodontal disease. There's a chapter in the book, in the appendix, about oral health and kidney, because it's an enormous part of it. And you're right, it's not separate.
Well, we know that periodontal disease is directly connected to the heart. If you have perio, you will have inflammation in the heart, possibly, and kidney. I was just getting there. The organisms here can actually be found in the vascular lesions in the heart and presumably in the kidney as well. Now, one of the things in my field, I do a lot of neural therapy. And in the neural therapy theory, each tooth is connected to an acupuncture meridian, which is then connected to various aspects of the body. It is the incisors, upper and lower, that are connected to the kidney bladder meridian. And I have seen case after case of dysfunction in organs related to that meridian system because of a root canal or a cavitation, a hidden infection in one of the incisors. So that's something that people need to look at.
Absolutely.
Then there's also the issue of mercury in teeth. It's not safe if your dentist drills out the mercury in your mouth and throws it in your backyard, he'll get cited for pollution. It's that toxic. But somehow it's safe to put it in your teeth, and that makes it safe. I never understood that. But do you know if they're still putting mercury in fillings?
I think so.
I mean,
I think amalgam still has mercury.
If they're putting amalgam in, I don't know if they are or not, but mercury is a renal toxin, a kidney toxin.
Yeah. And so I had an interesting experience that I'll share. My functional cardiologist ordered a heavy metal panel that was not provoked. And my naturopath from the Big Island ordered a heavy metal panel that was provoked. I did them at the same time.
Hang on, for the viewer.
Thanks.
Provocation means let's say we're collecting your urine in the steady state, like I'm sitting here and I urinate into a cup and you measure my heavy metals. Not much is going to come out because the metals prefer to stay in you. A provoked test is where you give the client an agent which grabs the metal and carries it out. and then you collect it, and then your provoked test could be many-fold larger than an unprovoked test. Many doctors, the conventional doctors, will say, oh, that's not fair because you're giving a chelating agent, and that's why you're seeing more in your urine. I say BS to that, because if it's coming out, it shouldn't have been there to begin with.
Yeah, exactly.
So continue.
And kidney, I mean, it's interesting because there's bone changes. Lead gets deposited in bones earlier in life. And so as elders lose bone structure, it releases the lead. I also learned that in talking with Joe Pizzorno. And so, interestingly, I had lead on the provoked test and didn't have it on the unprovoked test, which got my attention because I had some decline in bone density. Not much, thank God, but that was what I figured. Okay, I grew up walking through New York during the years of leaded gasoline, breathing bus fumes, thinking, oh, it's so cool, I'm in the city. Driving past the refineries on the way home to New Jersey.
Yeah.
So, and it's interesting. I had a bottle of the chelating medication in hand. I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. I'd read too much. I know everybody, oh, this is great. It's safe. EDTA, oh, that's safe. DMSA, oh, it's safe. I couldn't do it. But I discovered carnosine, which is a 2-amino acid bioregulator peptide that we've known about since the early 1900s, that actually is capable of chelating divalent metals. And so I have a 40-page chapter in the book about it, because what doesn't it do? It's crazy. And just as I was getting ready for this, I looked it up because I was looking at the chapter, and it mentioned that it has the ability to decrease infectivity of viruses, Zika and influenza. So I looked it up quickly, and yeah, it does with COVID as well. Nice to have, but with the heavy metals, it's a no-brainer. And so it's part of my protocols for people pretty much all the time anymore. And
from what I gathered at your place, carnosine is something that you and your husband take every day?
Correct.
How many milligrams do you recommend?
I started out with 500 milligrams, and this is what I advise people to do. Start slow. It's like, see what it feels like. Okay, I like this. It doesn't have to be intellectually liking it. It's like sometimes you take something and you're like, yeah, I like this. And gradually increase to 2, which is a gram, twice a day. So 2,000 milligrams is a reasonable amount to take. And here's another piece of it is we're advising plant-based diet. Well, carnosine comes from meat, from muscle. In fact, muscle is a place where our bodies can make it. And it's a complicated biochemistry, but supplementing it makes a lot of sense. And so, what was I going to say? I can't remember what I was thinking. It's of value. Oh, because of the plant-based diet. Sorry.
Yes, I'm vegetarian, so I'm paying very careful attention to this. Yeah. I pay attention to my B12, and I'm going to pay attention to this as well.
Yeah, and zinc. I mean, those are the things. Zinc. And you can actually get zinc carnosine. Some people feel like that's even a better option. I tend to like to give people zinc and give people carnosine separately, because with kidney, quirky things happen. There's, your uremic changes mess up things like transporters. So all of a sudden, thiamine isn't getting into cells, folate isn't getting into cells. Things are funny, they're quirky, and things that you wouldn't necessarily expect. I really like doing like a NutriVal with kidney patients. This huge panel for nutritional awareness, because you find out there's like funny, quirky things you wouldn't have expected. But doc, I'm taking B complex. Well, you're not able to utilize certain B vitamins, and methylation issues are a real thing. I also went through a phase of using senolytics, and CKD is a disease that causes senescence. And what that means is cells actually stop doing what they're supposed to. They just sit there eating. They're kind of like, yeah, and eventually infect the neighbors. And that's where
Yeah.
cytokines and inflammation can come up. There's a benefit to it. I mean, there's a reason our bodies do this stuff. It is to protect us from cancers. And so it's not, oh, that's evil. But when it gets out of hand, there are some things you can do. In fact, carnosine is a senolytic. That's a whole nother conversation and discussion. But just the awareness of all of these factors impacting kidney. And whereas one person might really need senolytics, another one may not. Maybe this one needs more nitric oxide function and endothelial support. And that's the discernment clinically, is how to know which patient needs what attention. Lab work helps, listening. People tell you what's going on with them if you just sit down and talk about things.
I'm going to be writing about this on my Substack. And one thing I want to be clear on, you started with a GFR of 30 after your cancer was removed. And after you got all done with this, you went up to 68. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. That's absolutely remarkable to me, to have your remaining kidney pumping out at 68.
Doing good here. We're a team.
And
Yeah.
how long ago was that?
About a year. So first it started sneaking up into the 30s, and I was delighted because I was being told that couldn't happen. Okay.
Right.
And then it hit the 40s. I really felt better. I mean, it's impressive how just a little bit of change. Then I remember the last time I saw a nephrologist, I got to 51, and she told me I was hurting myself by all the supplements I was taking. And I'm like, but did you notice what? And no, thank you. I don't want any of your references. So I was like, I got to go. I'm on my own here. And finally, it got up to 60. I remember like screaming loudly when I took a look at the computer. And this all started in 2013. So it took me time to figure this stuff out. It's like, which supplements should I take? CoQ10. Oh, sheesh, yeah, I need that. Okay. Oh, and I should be taking vitamin E with that. All right, cool. It's just like, it was really trial and error and an enormous amount of reading. Read about inflammation in kidney. It's an enormous thing. Read about dysbiosis in kidney. Huge.
What do you like for inflammation? What are your favorites? A lot of people use curcumin or other polyphenols. Some push fish oil. I don't, because I think it's potentially toxic. What do you like?
I think that, a plant-based diet, because you're putting in less inflammatory stuff, less chemicals. I resveratrol and quercetin. The old standbys, vitamin C. Vitamin D is a whole conversation with kidney in and of itself. That's a whole separate chat. Um, I like botanicals.
Do you use
Cilantro.
vitamin? Do you use vitamin D with your CKD patients?
If they need it. I think you need to do lab work because some people have super high, one of the nephrologists I saw started deriding me for, you're taking too much vitamin D. I'm like, no, I'm a gardener. I don't take any. I haven't taken any because my level's been great. I
Well, you
love,
also have the blessing of living on the beach in
you
Hawaii.
got it. And so here's the thing that I found out. When we measure vitamin D, usually you do 25 hydroxy vitamin D, right? That's made in the liver. Okay, if that's low, you can assume that it's low in the kidney. But if it's not low, can you assume that the 125, which is
Kidney.
put together in kidney, is okay? And I've seen that with people where their 25 was normal and their 125 was too low. Okay, so this is somebody who isn't capable of putting on that extra hydroxyl group and making adequate active vitamin D. And and so those are people who need to be supplemented. Not everybody. Yeah, there's a whole thing that I'm still not quite ready to talk about with clotho, FGF 23, calcium, phosphorus, and vitamin D.
What was that
That's a whole
FDF 23? What was that?
FGF 23 is a really interesting, it's fibroblast growth factor. There's many, but FGF 23 and phosphorus do a thing together. And what you see in early CKD is the phosphorus looks normal. I remember learning this, and it was like another one of those, like, oh, wow. Normal range of phosphorus is not normal for kidney. 3.5, which is the mid range and higher, is causing damage. So all of a sudden, you got to re-up your understanding of phosphorus labs. Oh, it's normal doesn't necessarily work. Well, it may be normal in stage 2, but the FGF 23 starting to go up, that's telling you there's something awry in this cycle with phosphorus doing this terrible thing of sucking calcium out of bones and
Yeah.
parking it in blood vessels. I mean, that's, you know, metabolic bone disease is a kidney problem, huge. And also, I forgot to include parathyroid hormone in that bigger way of thinking. And so phosphorus, I was laughed at by a group of nephrologists that I was trying to do a study group with. You don't have to worry about phosphorus. Well, mine was elevated and my blood vessels have suffered. And so I started really taking it seriously. Again, yes, I have a chapter on phosphorus in the book because it's a uremic toxin. And getting rid of animal food lowers your
Yes.
phosphorus.
Yes.
So, the junk food that has phosphates in it, you absorb those chemical phosphates 100%, and that challenges the body. Animal foods, you absorb about 80%. That's a lot. Plant foods, more like 40%. And plant proteins come packed with phytates, which are natural phosphorus blockers. Some people might say phosphates aren't good, but in my world of kidney awareness, it's a gift. And so, there are oxalates in soy, but I think soy is a wonderful protein for people with kidney because it's a nice complete protein. I love tofu, from being at my house. I just discovered how to make tofu bagels.
Oh, gee.
They're really
Well,
good.
there is controversy in our world about soy. And you read Sally Fallon and other people who decry soy, saying that there's hormones in it. And I never really bought into that theory.
Yeah,
I
me
always
either.
considered that, God put out soy, and peoples all over the world have grown soy for their sustenance.
Yeah.
And they're saying that soy can cause cancer or erection dysfunction because of phytoestrogens. Can you comment on this, please? Because I don't think soy is the bad guy
Yeah,
some
I
people
agree.
call it. Okay.
So, first of all, organic soy is necessary.
Yes. Otherwise, it's got
Nasty,
glyphosate in it. It's
very
genetically
nasty.
altered.
So that goes without saying. Um, I lived in a community that was vegan some years ago, and there were more babies born in that community than anywhere I've ever lived. So I would say, the tofu diet didn't interfere with fertility at all. Apparently, came with plenty of erections. So I disagree. I've wondered. I mean, political, economic, health issues are real. I think the meat industry has promoted some fake news about soy. There are people who are sensitive to soy, but I've found that many of them actually had dysbiosis. If you fix the gut, bingo, all of a sudden they don't really have a true soy allergy. Oxalates are an issue, and that's again a whole nother conversation. Not everybody with CKD has an oxalate issue, but you want to be careful because they can harm the tubules. So I put Chanca piedra, which is an herb that grows as a weed in my garden in my tea, and that helps a little.
Which herb is that for oxalates?
Chanca piedra, it's called stonebreaker.
And can you spell it slow for me?
Sure. Chanca, Chanca, and then piedra, Piedra, which actually means stonebreaker.
Okay. That's good for our listeners. Uh, well, this has been exciting information. I think the information on carnosine is phenomenal, and your book is just chock full of that. And it's something I'm going to add to my regimen, which I haven't done because I've just been so busy since we came back from you, which is only a week and a half.
Before we jump back in, we would like to give another shout out to our sponsor, PromoLife. Bringing you closer to the benefits of ozone therapy, proudly rooted in the USA, PromoLife is at the forefront of assembling ozone therapy generators designed for both personal and professional use right here on American soil. Meticulously handcrafted and precision calibrated, each ozone generator speaks quality and reliability. PromoLife has simplified the ozone therapy process by offering a complete line of high-quality accessories that allow you to use ozone in ways you never thought possible. Don't miss out and explore the entire collection of cutting-edge offerings at www.promolife.com/ozone. Make sure you use the coupon code in the description of this podcast for an exclusive discount towards your journey to enhanced well-being. This episode is also brought to you by Simply O3. We are proud to introduce our latest innovation, Glycine, a premium ozonized glycerin designed to support your wellness journey. Ozone therapy has been transforming health for over 100 years, backed by more than 2,500 medical studies. Known for boosting immune function, improving blood flow, and reducing fatigue, it is a powerhouse for your health routine. Ready to experience Glycine yourself? Visit www.simply03/ozone to order. If it's backordered, just leave them with your email, and you'll be the first to know when the next batch is ready. Don't miss out and discover the benefits of Glycine and take this a step toward better health today. And remember, your health is an investment, not an expense. With Simply O3 and the revolutionary product, Glycine, you're choosing quality, innovation, and care. Visit www.simply03.com/ozone and make Glycine a part of your wellness routine today.
Lucas, we've been on for almost an hour and 15 minutes, and you usually chime in around this time. So you might have some questions for this fine lady.
Can you guys hear me all right?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah, super, super insightful. I did have a quick question here because I recently got my blood test done, blood drawn and tested. I haven't done this, I don't think ever, at least not that I can remember. Um, and all my stuff came back normal ranges, except for my creatinine BUN ratio was way low. I was hoping you could maybe explain why would that be? What are some causes of that and how I can correct it?
Could be dehydration,
Okay, super simple.
which is a really simple thing. And your creatinine itself was normal?
Creatinine itself was normal. It was just the BUN ratio, which I don't understand what that is. But
Yeah,
Well,
they come up with all kinds of screwy ways of trying to figure stuff out because it hasn't been easy to figure out kidney. And so, did they do a GFR? Was there a GFR on your?
yes, 96 was GFR.
Good job. I'm
okay.
happy with the 96. That's lovely.
I like that too, and I'm in agreement with her. The main thing is your GFR is
Drink.
quite good, and 96 is fine. Um, the higher the better. The creatinine is a simple test for kidney function. It's an indirect measure of GFR. And I like to see a creatinine generally of 1 or less, although I have seen muscle bound people, males especially,
Yeah,
with creatinine slightly higher, which is not reflective of kidney disease.
exactly.
And then BUN is also eliminated by kidneys. And typically, if you are what we call uremic or you have really bad kidney disease, the BUN, blood urea nitrogen, also goes up. But creatinine is a far better measure, and BUN can go up because of dehydration. You're not drinking enough water. So I'm in agreement with her on that.
Did you have a urinalysis done at the same time by any chance?
No, I didn't. Um, but I
Because
was
sometimes
probably
if you do them together, you can look at the specific gravity on the UA, and if that shows that your urine is concentrated, nice fix. Get yourself a water bottle and a teacup that you like, and be one of those
right.
Baba people.
And make sure your water bottle is not plastic.
Right on.
Just upgraded
Exactly.
stainless steel.
Yes,
Right.
yes. And I'll tell you, we Robin, we didn't speak about this that much, but they're finding microplastics in every organ of the body, in
There's a
brain.
chapter in the book on microplastics.
Okay,
Hmm.
and
Definitely.
you would expect that then to have an impact on the kidney.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I went for it. I couldn't stop adding chapters. I mean, this is not a skinny book. See,
Hold that up for people so they
it's
can
good for
see it.
exercise equipment if you're not busy reading it.
Where can they get that book? I think this book is outstanding, and I could spend months
And the
reading it.
artwork is gorgeous, isn't it? I had a
Yeah.
Ukrainian artist who had to move to Poland to do this work, and I love it. We are publishing this independently, not using Amazon for various reasons. And so my website is where to get it at this point, and it's through Lulu, which is a independent publisher. And so it's Renology is kidneysuccess.com,
One
which
word,
is
all one word.
one word. And it's now live as of just now. We've since you guys have been gone, we've been struggling with all the annoying details of getting the website to work and payments to work and postage and all that. So we got international as well as US availability, and I am so excited. I've been supposedly going to write a book for the last 40 years, so I finally sat down and did it. And I don't plan to stop. I'm going to use the website to keep educating. I have my kidney kitchen as one section on the website, which is another book maybe I'll write one day. My kidney garden, which talks about the plant-based medicines that are at least explored as safe for kidney. Where all the evidence? We're still gathering the data by living our lives, and and then some videos that I've done. I'll probably put this one on there, and then I'll just start blogging stuff. If I have an idea, I've started writing it up to put on the website. But Renology is kidney success. Keep saying it because it changes your health and changes your mind.
I like the concept. We're not talking about kidney disease or renal failure. You're talking about kidney success.
Yes. And I really love the renewal concept. The idea of regeneration. I mean, regenerative medicine is another fad that's happening, longevity medicine. And this fits right in because if you have sick kidneys, you're going to die too soon. And, the sooner the better. It's like, I wrote this in the book. It was my theme song for a while. What are you waiting for? I hear Brooklyn in my head, and it's like, I was told, don't worry, people live a long time with what you have. Okay, but what about the ones who don't? What do you advise? Well, we don't advise anything.
No, they just advise watching and waiting, and then they wait till your creatinine falls to or goes up to 6, and then they don't have anything for you.
Yeah. And the other thing to know is for those who, like you say, might have an elevated creatinine, it may look false that the GFR, which is based on creatinine, is abnormal. But there's another lab called cystatin C that doesn't take that into account. And on the other end, it's little skinny people who don't have a lot of muscle, and muscle is life. That's one thing to work on with kidney is, you know, work and weights and all of that matters. But the cystatin C will reflect the fact that if some skinny little old lady has, quote, normal kidney function with a GFR, it may actually be abnormal with a cystatin C. So we don't miss cases because the concern in the allopathic world is, well, you don't want to treat too early. But when you have therapies, and this was even told to me by a functional doctor, well, you don't want to do that because it's like making people worry they're sick. And it's like, wait a minute, I'm talking about lifestyle medicine.
Or
And
how about prevention medicine?
exactly. And so that's why stage 2 isn't normal, because we have this gorgeous array of life-saving, life-giving, safe approaches. It's not to say there are people who need statins. If you do, advanced testing and they have scary stuff, yeah, use the medication and then work with them. I mean, in my practice, I got a lot of people off meds that I gave them at first. This is dangerous. Let's fix this. And then you start fixing your life. It was a normal thing, we'd have celebrate, no more of this medicine, no more of that medicine. And so, I like the fact that we have access to everything. I'm not anti-medicine. I think they have a place, but they also have more side effects than I personally like. And, a lot of the pharmaceuticals that are commercial have titanium in them, there's silicon dioxide, none of which is good. And so, for instance, I mean, I take thyroid. Thyroid also is an issue. T3 is often low in CKD and missed because it's not monitored. And I have taken thyroid for years. I get it compounded and it's precise amounts that I need, not, the one size fits all pills. And like I said, I take amlodipine, which is an interesting, in its calcium channel work. I feel okay with it, but I get that compounded. And then low dose naltrexone also has an interesting role. Again, compounded because I trust that the person who's making it for me isn't putting in fillers and stuff that makes it look prettier in the pill that I don't really care about.
You mentioned melatonin. We're going to be ending soon, but regarding melatonin, what effect does that have on the kidney?
Well, for one thing, it's prepared in kidney, so it's low. And we know that it's an immune system tool. It's a cardio tool. I mean, again, it's another thing that has a real systemic benefit. Plus the fact that, yeah, it does help with sleep. There's a role. It's not the only one. And by the way, since I haven't really talked much about the bioregulators, the pineal bioregulators are incredible tools for guiding and helping sleep, because that's where melatonin gets enhanced. And people might be aware of epitalin, which is a synthetically produced version of the glandular pineal peptide endolutein. Either one is incredibly beneficial. And so, there's thymus effects. I mean, melatonin engages with more than just sleep. It's more than the pineal. I mean, all these things talk to each other. That's the defrag. Those kids are all
Yes.
running around having little conversations, and I like to meditate and imagine that. It's like in the realm of this sanctuary. In this sanctuary, I do no toxic harm.
And when you say melatonin is prepared in the kidney, are you talking about the precursors?
Well, it's actually like completed and activated.
Oh, it's activated in the kidney.
And so if you have dysfunction in kidney, it may be suboptimal.
Okay.
And again, plenty about melatonin in this weightlifting book.
Yay. That book is incredible. You showed it to me when I was there, and now I can actively read it. And I got to say, I think that is a book for just about anybody to read, because it covers a wide breadth of staying healthy, concentrating on the kidney, but wide breadth of staying healthy.
Yeah. Yep. And health is wealth.
It's everything. If you don't have health, I mean, Rockefeller did not have good health at the end of his life.
Mm.
So he sought out to make sure that none of us would either.
God. Well, we're the antidote to that. We're going to
We're
continue
trying.
to share this wisdom, and the people who are attracted, find us.
I'm counting on you to let us know what OG does in your coming experience for CKD.
Nice.
Because I think it's going to be a cat's meow. Ozone, you mentioned nitric oxide. Absolutely, I believe in it. But ozone stimulates your body's endogenous production of nitric oxide.
Nice. Yeah.
OG, you could just, who knows, maybe if you just take a half a teaspoon of OG by mouth once or twice a day, it's going to encourage your body to make all the nitric oxide that you need. We'll see.
Yeah, and there's the hormesis and the homeostasis, and there's too much and too little, and the body has wisdom. The body wants to heal, and as opposed to punching yourself. I had a very sick Crohn's patient many, 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 many years ago. It was decades ago, and he was doing a lot of stuff that was not good. And he basically was like, I hate this disease. And it was late at night. It was like an evening appointment. And I said, how much do you hate it? And he made a fist and he went to punch himself in the gut. I hate it this much. And we both looked at each other and I said, well, let's see what can happen if you stop punching yourself. And he ended up dramatically better. And it was a moment, it was like eye-opening for both of us. We were both close and we both went, oh my God. And so it's like really about loving yourself, and being willing. I mean, I sat here with my husband eating beets years ago when beets were too much potassium, and I started crying. And I was
Oh,
like, I don't want beets. Now I eat beets, Now he doesn't eat beets because of the oxalates. Go figure.
yeah.
So, it's an evolving thing, and it's just have fun doing this diet. Have fun being healthy, because it's not a punishment. I mean, I did plenty of self-blame. Like, how did I let myself? How did I? It doesn't help, It's really, there's so much benevolence And it has to start with my own care about myself. Put on your seatbelt first, and I had people in a kidney group that I was running. They were patients whose families weren't supportive, wouldn't allow them to eat the foods they needed, and it's like, it's working on all those relationships. I wanted people to understand why I didn't want the food they were serving me. Thank you so much, but no, I'm not going to eat it to be socially appropriate. I go to restaurants, I bring food with me so that there's protein for me to eat because they don't have what I eat. All right, I'll get the salad and bring my own tofu. It's a real life commitment to being healthy once you've had something going awry.
Health is a lifetime project, especially in today's world. The world is toxic. Alleged food is grown on nutritionally depleted soils, and 70% of what some people eat are ultra processed foods.
Yeah. I know. I mean, the little bags of fried carbs. Oh, no, 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 no. And it's hard because the culture hasn't really supported and taught that, and so I'm full on maha, it's like, let's all take this on, start with myself, share meals with other people, do podcasts, and encourage, yeah, we can do this. We really have to. Our children are sick. I mean, I see people feeding their kids stuff that makes me cringe. And there's younger and younger people with kidney disorders. I mean, really? We don't need that.
Well, we know that 20 to 40% of our young children, have chronic disease of some kind. It would only make sense that it's going to affect kidneys as well. And we know that 60+% are overweight and or grossly obese. There's an incredibly high rejection of people, men and women, into the military because of their health. What has become of us? So I'm in agreement with you about Maha. I hope that Kennedy will bring some intelligence to this, and quickly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We were there. We were together when Kennedy was getting confirmed.
That's right. I'm very grateful to him. And I know there's a lot of people who have great disdain, and that's unfortunate. One very against Kennedy person who I know who lives here, I have my Maha hat, and I said, I'm a doctor. Why wouldn't I want to make America healthy? I mean, I'm distressed that there's such illness and a lack of doctors available. I mean, it's very crazy. And so I think, biohack for yourself. Change your habits. Love life enough to learn how to cook better. Make it fun to cut up a salad and to prepare a meal that's beautiful.
You mentioned restaurants. We're going to have to close, but I want to mention this. I'm the better part of the cook in the house. Terry's busy doing what she has to do. She runs the office. I'm a raw fooder. I think you know that. In your house, we were lucky. You cooked wonderful, wonderful food. But we will have a salad. I'll have a salad in a bowl this big, and that's my supper. And yes, maybe I'll make a baked yam once in a while, or maybe some brown rice. But when we go out, we quiz the restaurant. Can you cook for us, if you're going to cook, in coconut oil, ghee, or butter, rather than cheap junk vegetable oil?
Yeah, it's hard to come by in a restaurant.
And if they can't do that, I don't want to eat there. And it's also sometimes hard to come by organic restaurants. You're not going to have much of that where you are in Hawaii. But
here at my house.
Right there. We're lucky. We have it in our area, in the Santa Rosa, California area. It's there.
And one thing that I found, though, is there's way too much salt. even in organic restaurants. I mean, I was fighting with the food co-op in Ashland, Oregon. They had a wonderful buffet, fabulous food, great salad bar, lovely food, way too salty.
Yeah.
And they argued with me and said, well, people won't like the food. I'm like, what? So you and McDonald's are in cahoots now? I mean, it's really, it is really an issue. I mean, I know some people say, oh, all this low salt thing. With kidney, it matters. That doesn't mean no salt. But when, if you're eating out, eating conventional prepared stuff, it's way too salty. And,
Agreed.
well,
Especially if it's in a package.
you got to be
So
fussy, and I feel kind of weird, like the weirdo, the quirk. I go to potlucks and I bring what I'm going to eat,
and you eat it.
and
Yeah.
sometimes
You're not
that's
alone. My mother does the same thing.
As
She'll
do
even
I.
come to go to weddings and bring her own cooler full of food.
we do the same.
okay. You don't know. I mean, and people have different financial situations where they think they can't afford stuff. I mean, I used to love the really poor hippies in Ashland, and they fed their kids nice organic food. They made it happen. It's like that's the commitment, It's these little street people who ate really better than people who were at the fancy restaurants. So going out to eat has become a problem. I mean, there's been times where we went to Honolulu, like to go to doctors, and we'd go to a restaurant and I'd be sick for a couple of days afterwards. And that was the wake up call is I don't know what oil they're using. Speaking of inflammation, I mean, that kind of oil will cause inflammation.
Absolutely.
Who knows what icky stuff they put in, packaged spices that aren't even, natural stuff. I mean, it's really challenging to follow what I'm saying. And yet, to me, it was more challenging to be sick.
Well, I want to congratulate you on something that I have not seen. I've not seen a creatinine go from 30 to 68. As I told you earlier, we're quite pleased when we see a creatinine go from 30 to 45 to 50. And typically
Right.
we can do that.
Yeah.
And we can reverse it to quite an extent. You did an enormous job, and we're going to be recommending your book to people who have chronic kidney disease. Congratulations on the book. I love it.
Thank you so much. Yes, it was a joy to be weaving it together. I'd collected all kinds of information, wrote it by hand in notebooks at first, and then it was like, oh, wait a minute, this needs to be shared. And so it was really just making a collage of years of, oh, 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 aha. And like it says on the back, nobody else has put all this together in this way. So, learn about the bioregulators. It's wonderful. It'll get your GFR of 45 to 50 patients up into stage 2.
One last thing. You're trained in acupuncture and Asian medicine. In Asian medicine, the kidney is in control of bones. So that's one thing. And I was taught that the brain exists essentially as bone marrow to the skull. So the kidney, and especially the bladder meridian, crisscrosses the brain and could be highly responsible for our brain health.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I have a friend. Actually, I think you know her, Kat Toops, who is doing brain research, working with Bredesen, and she and I often will share notes, and things that affect the kidney affect the brain.
Yeah,
Very
right
similarly.
on.
In the appendix, I think the very last chapter in the appendix is about Chinese medicine for that reason. Other cultures have looked at kidney a little differently. Kidney Jing is an important thing. And so that I was I was challenged to include that, and I did because it's an important thing. I mean, they figured it out. It's connected. The kidney bone's connected to the brain bone,
Yeah,
and the kidney bone's connected to the eye bone, and the tooth bone, and the bone, and the muscle bone. It's quite fun.
very good. Lucas, any last things? We've been on now for an hour and a half. That's as far as we wanted to go.
Yay!
Nothing other than I'll get the link to the website where people can purchase your book in the description when we publish this.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you
Dr.
so much.
Rose, Robin Rose, thank you so much for being here. I was just looking at your name up on the screen and I see RO and RO for your first and last name. And
Just
I
like
have
you.
just like me. Yes.
We will row our boat.
To health.
It's health. Oh, I like that. We might have to use that.
Mhm.
Indeed. Thank you so much. This has been so fun.
Good. It's nice to see you again, even
Indeed.
virtually.
Yep. Come back and visit.
We will. Thank you.
Before we wrap up, I'd like to give one more quick shout out to our sponsors over at Simply 03. If you haven't checked out their latest innovation, glycine, now is the time. This premium ozonized glycerin is designed to boost immune function, improve blood flow, and reduce fatigue, all backed by over 2,500 medical studies on ozone therapy. Don't wait. Visit www.simply03.com/ozone to order glycine today. And if it's backordered, just drop them your email and you'll get notified when the next batch is ready. Your health deserves the best, and with Simply 03 and glycine, you're on the right path. Start your wellness journey now at www.simply03.com/ozone. And before we go, a big thank you to our friends at Shop C60 for sponsoring this episode. If you haven't heard of C60, also known as Carbon 60, it is a powerful antioxidant designed to optimize mitochondrial function, fight inflammation, and neutralize toxic free radicals. I'm a huge fan of pairing C60 with a keto or intermittent fasting lifestyle to boost your immune system, support detox, and sharpen your mental clarity. If you're over 40, this could be the secret weapon to kick fatigue and brain fog to the curb. Head over to shopc60.com and use the coupon code in the description for 10% off your first order. Take control of your health and energy today. Visit shopc60.com now. Thank you for listening to this conversation with Dr. Rowen. If you found this podcast informative or inspirational, please share it with your friends, family, and colleagues. Until next time, stay safe and be well.